Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome. I haven't said that for a really long time, but hello, everybody.
Hello.
How are you, Kate?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I have a sore throat. Not a sore throat, a froggy throat. It's because I've drunk too many drinks with and then I had a yogurt for lunch that kind of did weird things to my throat. That's what happens when I have too many dairy products, basically. But I'm also wanting to apologize to everybody for being late. Not that we were late, really. I guess we kind of started the pre-roll at 1 instead of starting the actual show at 1. But I took my dogs out into the yard to play ball with them so that they would be nice and chill in time for this. And
you had a disaster.
We had a disaster, at least according to Ghost, my border collie, one of my border collies. I threw a ball, and I'm going to admit it was a 1 in a million chance. We've had some gopher action on the front lawn, and the ball went up and it went down, went perfectly in a gopher hole, and then rolled down into the gopher hole, and the ball is no more.
Bye-bye, ball.
Bye-bye, ball. Hello, everybody who's watching. If you haven't seen this before, this is the Transport Evolved live stream that we do every month. If you are a Patreon supporter, you get 2. You get 2 live streams a month. So how about that? If you like this conversation and you want to see more about it, then there's a really easy way of doing that. You can go to patreon.com/Transport Evolved, and you can join us with a $1 a month Patreon subscription. Then you get access to more cool stuff like this. Not that we do a lot of exclusive content. Basically, it's the live streams that we do. Poor Ghost, says Stefan. Yeah, poor Ghost. The ball is no more. I kind of put the ball through her down into the hole, and it went up to my wrist. And then I'm like, you know what? I think we're done, mate. I think it's gone forever. I'm not sure he's convinced of that fact, but
no, he's just going to dig. You're going to end up with like a 6 foot wide, 10 foot deep pit.
He's sulking on the floor. He's got grass all on his paws from digging. But yeah, that is unfortunate, and it is the way it is. So for those who don't know, this is the thing we do towards the end of the month. So we kind of chat about what's been going on in the TE world, chat what's been going on in the electric car and green energy world, and basically nerd out for a short period of time. Consider it an extra video from the channel. Don't play with the gopher hole. They have big teeth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They do. I guess we'll find out. They've come up. This is why we put all of our vegetables in, all of our root vegetables in tubs. A lot of people have asked, why do you have so many tubs? That is why. It takes a strategic sip of tea. What have you been up to lately, Kate?
Been working on the house. That's what I tend to do in my spare time. For those who don't know, we built this more or less.
We built all the walls house.
We did, but not from rock and roll.
House on rock and roll.
Well, I mean, I built it more on indie because it was 6 music most of the time. But yeah, if you can see a wall in this view or a door or anything, we built it, put it in. So, but it's not finished. So I've been working on that. That's what I do. And I've been fixing this.
I am really jealous.
It's fixed. It's not quite fixed because I actually damaged. I thought the screen died in transit, but I was watching back the video of me reassembling it. And no, Kate broke the screen.
So, that's a Scion 3, right? Or a Scion
How 4? Very dare you, a Scion 3. This is clearly completely different to a Scion 3 because it says Acorn Pocketbook 2.
Yeah, no, it's a Scion, Kate.
It's not. It has different buttons. See, the buttons are different, so it's entirely different, and it's got a little acorn button.
It's a Scion.
How dare you?
It's all right. We have this kind of conversation all the time. You've also been down in Portland. You were filming. We've had a lot of cars in the last couple of weeks.
We have.
So the video you just saw at the beginning, if you watch the beginning of this, and don't worry, we'll throw it in at the end if we have to. If we have to. God, that sounded bad.
I mean, if we have to for these people are so demanding. Yeah.
So we have so we did a review of the Genesis GV70.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael, that little intro that you saw there, Michael manages to tie in the GV60 and then the G80, the electrified G80, and then the electrified GV70. That's its proper name. So that is our next review. It depends on, and I don't want to kind of hold Michael to this because I know Michael's been really busy with other stuff. But if everything goes according to plan, Michael will push that on. Can you remember the date? It will be the 7th of July.
I think it's the 7th, yeah.
Based on our calendar.
Pull that up because actually, while we're talking about what's going on, it's useful for me to have some idea about what's going on because there's so much.
Well, I mean, somebody changes the schedule so frequently.
Yeah, I don't know who that would be.
So we had we just had Formula E at the weekend, and Kate was down for that as well.
Yeah.
We also have a Lexus review coming up, which you're going to have to stick around until the end of July for. We had 3 cars back to back to back, and so we are going to wait and see, or rather give Michael a bit of a break. Everyone is taking next week off except Kate, who's taking off the rest of July.
Yeah, basically. I was like, you know what? July sounds dull. Bye.
So Kate's taking July off, and as a consequence, she agreed to do 10 next week. So you're going to get Kate on the 8th. Yes.
Yeah.
The 8th of July is 10. And I have to, the reason, I don't know if you know this, but the reason why I'm kind of looking at this and having to pull funny faces and things is because our calendar is one day ahead of your calendar, mostly. Mm-hmm. So everything that goes out onto the channel, generally, there are a few exceptions. Yesterday was one of those. The videos go out a day before general release. So if you're a Patreon supporter or you are a YouTube channel member, again, another good reason to support us, from as little as $1 a month or 99 cents if you are actually on YouTube. You get to see the videos generally 24 hours or thereabouts ahead of everybody else. 10 is an exception. Mm-hmm. 10, you probably get about 12 hours. It tends to get published on Friday evening, our local time, or Saturday morning if you're in the UK and Europe. And then 10 gets released to everybody else later in the day on a Saturday.
Fingers crossed when I do it for the 8th, it'll either be out early on Friday, because I'll be uploading it Thursday before I go to work, mm-hmm. or it'll be coming out on Saturday. We'll see how that goes.
We'll have to see what happens. But yeah, so Kate's going to be taking 10 next week, and the Chicken and Garden. The Chicken and Garden on the 9th, I nearly did it wrong. The Chicken and Garden update on the 9th is actually going to be slightly different. It's not going to be me walking around the garden going, "Hey, this is how we do things." It's going to be more of a bit of a tutorial. We have an automatic watering system, and I figured that it would be a good chance to talk about how we get our automated gardening done. So maybe that's how we'll do it. So with how slow Patreon is with sending mails, sometimes I often get the release notification after it appears in my YouTube feed. I'm sorry, Marcus. We'll have to reach out to our contacts at Patreon and make sure that doesn't continue to happen. So we are busy this week with Formula E stuff. If you are like I say, if you're a Patreon supporter or a YouTube channel member, there's a video from Kate going to be dropping today or tomorrow if you are a regular viewer. And that is going to be all about Formula E and charging, right, Kate?
Yeah. It's a little bit of behind the scenes in the pit lane about charging and the technology that ABB have brought into the charging for Formula E.
And it's a different video to what we normally do, partly because we didn't have really a chance to sit down and talk with anybody on the day at the track. So it's kind of this kind of, you're acting as the kind of the glue that holds
the
several different. Yes, the compare.
The variety show that is Formula E.
That's a really good analogy. It's a shame about the cheating, isn't it? If you're not aware, there was cheating at Formula E this weekend, this past weekend. One team decided to put a scanner out that read the tire pressure monitoring system of competitors' cars as they were going past, and that gave them an unfair advantage because then they knew exactly how the tire pressures were. Thomas Ivy just said, what about Formula E and the Bluetooth signal stealing? Yeah. That's exactly what it was. And it was not a very nice thing to have happen.
We have a bunch of questions about CCS and NACS.
Yes. We have a bunch of questions about CCS and NACS, but there is something else I want to touch on really quickly. John Goodenough has just been awarded the Nobel Prize, which I think is really cool. He's going to receive the Nobel Prize in chemistry. He's the oldest person to ever receive it. 97.
Did he not just pass away? I think he did.
Oh, he just passed away. That's right. That's the story. Sorry, my brain is broken. Someone sent me the old link. Yeah, no, he just passed away. You're right. Yes. I'm a pain in the butt. We actually have a thing ready for that, I think.
Do we?
We do. We'll have to film it. So I apologize.
Oh yes, I think we do. Yeah.
Someone sent me 2 links, one after the other, and I saw the second one, not the first. Oh, I feel bad now. But he would have been 100 and 19, 20, 21, 22. He would have been 100, right?
I'm going to cheat and look it up.
He was
born.
It's literally just happened.
He would be 101.
It happened yesterday, and we didn't hear about it. So I apologize.
He died on aged 100. He turned 100 on the 100. He died on his birthday. Is the answer to that?
Wow.
He came in 25th of July, and then died on the 25th of July.
You don't mean July. You mean June.
Oh yes, June. Sorry, it is June. Gosh.
Yes, he was 100. I apologize to everybody watching. I know someone is going to get very, very angry with us for getting that fact wrong. I do apologize.
Yes, and I am going to apologize to John B. Goodenough because that was very poor mathematics on my part. We should pay more attention.
Yes.
He'd be very disappointed.
Someone was just like pinging me message after message. You're live. You should bring this up. And I didn't get they sent me private messages. It wasn't until I scrolled back up and then I saw it. So I do apologize. So for those who don't know, he's basically considered the father of the modern lithium-ion battery. And we wouldn't have a lot of the modern lithium-ion battery technology that we have today if it wasn't for him.
No. He's working on solid state, I think, now.
That's right. And he actually received, now my brain is starting to function normally, he actually received a Nobel Prize with 2 other chemists who were also working on that same breakthrough. I remember covering it now. My brain is broken. He was 100 years and 11 months. Thank you. All right. So after that embarrassing thing that I know people are going to scream at us in the comments for, and I'm sorry.
It's fine. We can just edit it afterwards. We'll just edit it out.
We never edit the live streams.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
And we stand by our mistakes as well.
We do stand by our mistakes. We try to, at least.
Correct them.
So that will be in 10 this week, unfortunately. We'd actually, it's a horrible thing to say, but we we had a bit of a, we're going to have to work on it and update it. But like 3 years ago, we started working on a video about him, which I think we scripted, and that was it.
So well, I think wasn't it around the time we were talking about maybe interviewing him?
We were at one point, yeah. We were thinking
then,
about it.
And then that came up as we should probably prepare for this.
Yes. And then
you have a nurse on the team. Death is a thing. And we both had enough death in our family. So death is a thing that we don't have a problem talking about. People die.
Yes. Yes. In fact, if he passed away on Sunday, he passed away 1 day before my sister, 5th anniversary of my sister's death, which was yesterday, 5 years ago. Death is it's one of those things that we know is coming for all of us.
Yes.
Even if you are a rat.
Even if you are a rat, you get your own special death. But
And that is a sneak peek at a thumbnail we were going to do for 10. And now I think I'm going to have to speak to Erin about that. Because
yeah, I hadn't really considered that. But I mean, we're not talking about that.
No,
we are.
Lordstown Motors is dead.
Yes.
Well, it's
we've said that before in Faraday Future. We said was dead, and it's still.
Lordstown Motors is dying, as is the $40,000 Silverado. I feel like we're just preempting 10 here, Kate. This was not my intention. So we'd planned, I think I'm just going to say it, we'd planned on Death beckoning the Lordstown for our 10 thumbnail this week, and also the $40,000 Silverado. So now I've got to decide whether we keep that thumbnail or do a different one.
It depends how big. We can talk about that afterwards.
Yeah,
these lovely people don't need to have our in-depth discussion about what the thumbnail is going to look like.
I mean, I am going to touch base on the $40,000 Silverado. It's it's not surprising, and you're distracting me with your Fentmans. Is that a Fentmans?
Yes.
See, I can tell that. I can tell that by it's the Dandelion and Burdock. Really good from the UK. Really good drink company from the UK.
Although appallingly sugary. Oh my god.
Appallingly sugary. But it's nice as a bit of a treat now and then. So the Silverado, $40,000 Silverado is dead. The next Silverado is a little bit more pricey.
Ooh,
Silverado EV.
Just a touch. I mean, I'm sure it's great for working people.
We have this conversation so often, don't we? The problem is that EVs are so freaking expensive, and I feel like not enough people are actually discussing this. They're so freaking expensive, and if we want to see EVs really take off, we need them to be a little bit better priced. I know that GM is not going to produce that $40,000 Silverado EV. I think because it needs to make up the money, the losses that it's made on the program thus far. I think it wants to kind of cash in on being able to sell the more expensive model for more money. Everybody knows that the higher priced vehicles make more money to the company.
I think also that they do not currently have a lithium iron phosphate battery that they're using, which would allow them to do a cheaper vehicle that would have less range.
Yeah.
They don't have a sodium ion battery, which would allow them to do a cheaper vehicle that has less range. I mean, there's a chemistry issue here. I mean, there's a price issue. There's a price issue always, but unless you're gonna put in the funds to do that and suck it up, then I don't know how you get the price down in the immediate future.
I think part of the issue is that the Silverado work truck has a 200 kilowatt hour battery. And we've had this conversation before. Okay, 200 kilowatt hours is great if you're towing stuff. but not everybody who needs a work truck is going to need a work truck to tow with.
No.
That's the first thing I want to point out.
I think actually, I want to dive in for a second. The other thing is that in Europe, it's pretty common for work vehicles like vans and trucks to have fairly torquey but not very powerful engines. Like you will get, like I moved across the country driving things like a 2-liter Fiat Ducato van, and that, yeah, it's tedious. It does 70, but it is loud. It does, it gets you there. But here there's a real reticence for people to accept a lack of performance in a work vehicle. They want a vehicle like the work trucks. They want them to have that performance, even if it's not really necessary for moving the object. You see it also with the Ford Transit van, where it is alone in the US market pretty much in having front-wheel drive because people don't believe it can do it. It works fine. Yeah, it's not the most inspiring or exciting vehicle, but it's a work truck. Sorry. Hobby horse off.
No, I think you're totally right. And I think that Ford actually nailed it with the Ford Pro lineup, even though they're now more than 50 grand now for the entry-level Ford Pro. But if you are, let's talk about this, right? If you run a gardening business, say your job is mowing lawns and doing landscaping, generally you have an area that you cover within a certain radius of your base, right? You're not driving 200 miles a day to go to loads of different people long ways away from where you are based. You might have a range of about a work route that's maybe 100 miles in a day, maybe 150. So building a truck with a 450 mile range, which is what the Silverado work truck is overkill for most people. And I can't help but think that GM is falling into the same trap that so many other automakers are doing, which is they are trying to build and sell for the extreme case scenario rather than the median scenario. I hope that the person who, and I'm not going to say their name or anything, but we are consulting. We consult. If you don't know that we consult, you can sign up for a consulting session with us. You actually get 3 consulting sessions, and we talk to you about what you want in a car, what your hopes are, any nice to haves, any things that you don't want, and then we use our experience. We've been in the EV industry now for what? Combined 40 years, getting that way as a team.
Oh.
I mean, it's 20 for me now. And you're not far behind me. So if we add in the experience of other team members, we're closing in on 40, definitely 30. We tell you what vehicles we think would suit your needs, right? And very often it's someone comes in and they want a brand new car, and we point out a new vehicle that might work for them. They may need a car that has lots of legroom because they're a tall person, or they might need they might want a really compact car that has a pretty short range. But we had somebody recently who wanted a new car, and after we talked to them about their needs, we were like, honestly, you should really consider buying a used car with a small range. If you're retired, if you're never going to be doing long distance trips, or you have another car to do long distance trips in, you don't need a brand new EV. You need a short range runabout to save money around town. And I can't help but think that all automakers at the moment are pushing so hard on range that they're selling EVs for edge case scenarios rather than real world scenarios.
I think that's very true here. I think it's less true in Europe. There's much more diversity in the market in Europe, and particularly the Chinese automakers who have come in do seem to be doing a lot more 150, 200-ish mile range, which even still most people don't actually need, but I think 150 to 200 miles is a reasonable range that you could sell here as well.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly I get if you live in the Midwest in the middle of Nowheresville and you have to drive 50 miles to get to your grocery store, fine, that's not going to be the right car for you. But certainly for the coastal regions and for a lot of the more people who live in more densely populated areas, like 46% of all trips in the US are under 3 miles.
Right. And I am considered an edge case, right? Where I live is considered an edge case. So yesterday, even for me, right? This is a good example of what happened yesterday. So we had to send rushes over to Michael. Michael is still working from home. Michael's cat is still not feeling super, super good. But Michael and his partner send their thanks for those of you who donated to their medical fund for the cat. But Michael's working at home most of the time. He's here in the office tomorrow, just because. But he's been working at home all week. And so yesterday I drove rushes over to Michael. So basically means I put a load of footage on one of these. I jumped in the car and I drove the car over to where Michael lives. Now, Michael, I think it's a 75, 76 mile round trip from where I live. And then coming back, I had to go and get some coffee beans, and then I had to go and pick up the groceries because the groceries were ready. And then I think I then had to go somewhere else, and come back to the house. I basically did about 100 miles running errands. And then in the evening, we went out and we had a meal out with some people we're hoping to film with tomorrow. But even though we did that, we still got back to the house in a car that has a posted 250 mile range. And we still had the majority of our battery pack remaining.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the other thing is that, yes, like the Niro, it has a 239 mile range, my version officially. And if I take it and throw it up and down the freeway, then it gets me 220, as we demonstrated. But if you are doing the majority of your driving around town in short distances, you're going to see far more than the EPA sticker.
Right.
Unless it's icy cold or really hot and you're running the aircon on max all day and doing stop-start and winding the temperature up and down.
I mean, even yesterday, I think I averaged 4.9 miles per kilowatt hour. And that included significant amounts of high-speed freeway driving. And that was in the Bolt. Because contrary to popular opinion, I do actually prefer to drive the Bolt around town. In fact, I got a parking ticket in Portland the other day because I took the truck.
The truck, yeah.
Because I had to take the truck because I had camera gear in the back. I'm still very, very ticked off about that. And we've appealed the ticket, but hopefully they'll say, yeah, you're fine. But they probably won't because it was a private parking garage. I guess I can tell you. So we were parking on Friday last week after I'd finished editing 10. We went into Portland to a hotel where ABB were based. And that's where we had the interview with Bob Stoyanovich. I hope I said it right. Apologies if I didn't. And we set up and interviewed with him. So we had light stands, we had lights, we had a couple of cases with camera gear in. And so we drove to the nearest parking garage that was not officially attached to the hotel, but was in the same block. And so we went up to the top level and that was difficult because getting the truck around the corners in the parking lot. It was a big truck, small parking lot. We got to the top level. There was nobody else there. And I said to Michael, okay, I'm going to park right in the corner by the lift shaft. And I'm going to move the truck over slightly because there was a little gap between the parking space and a non-parking space that didn't have anything in it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to park slightly over so that if the parking lot gets really busy later on, someone can park next to us, but we can still get in the truck and blah, blah, blah. Came back to a parking ticket because we weren't within the lines. $50 later. But the next day I was parked in a parking garage, and I had to go in 4 different parking garages to find a garage where they'd said, yes, your truck will fit in the space. And even then the truck was on the lines. So I took photos very paranoidly of all of the angles to show that I was right in the middle of the parking space. And again, I didn't want to take the truck, and I never want to take the truck into town. And yeah, this is why we keep the small car, because we don't drive the truck unless we're doing truck things like carrying a large amount of gear, or carrying a large number of people and a large amount of gear, or carrying stuff for the, woodworking or garden stuff. So yeah, that's kind of a case in point, right? You buy a vehicle for the majority of the use case scenarios, not for the edge case. In our case, we did buy for the edge case because the edge case is so common for us that it made more sense. But I can't help but think a 450-mile EV range is just stupid.
Yeah, it's not necessary, not anymore.
Stephen says they haven't officially announced the battery size. I think they have based on the people I spoke to last week. I don't know if that was off the record or not, but they haven't officially announced the battery size. But if it really is the same as the Hummer EV, which it is, that means even the 450-mile range is only efficiency of 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour, which is worse than the Lightning. That is true. And that is slightly better than one of the vehicles we recently reviewed.
Yeah, the one that was on my little tweet stream of Mastodon annoyance.
Yes. Look, I mean, Stephen, I think the important thing here, and I just want to bring this up, and I know some people get very upset when I talk about efficiency of pickup trucks, and they get angry that we own an F-150 Lightning that we use for the company. There are times when we do need that big hulking vehicle, and we tend to only use the truck when we need that big hulking vehicle. And yes, it's terrible efficiency, but when you compare that to the efficiency of a gasoline F-150, the gasoline, the Lightning might be kind of right over there on your left as you're looking at the screen right now. It might be so far away on the left, and the Aptera is right here, and the F-150 Lightning is way over there. But a gas truck is in the next town in terms of efficiency.
Yeah.
Because it's, even if it's only getting 2 miles per kilowatt hour, it is more energy efficient than a gasoline truck, as long as you keep it for a significant number of miles. And that's the big qualifier here.
Well, and with that kind of battery pack, I don't know where the equivalency sits. But then a lot of these diesel trucks are not running their stock firmware, so they're maybe not as efficient as they were meant to be. She says.
And then that's another thing that we don't we don't touch base on. Lots of diesel pickup trucks are heavily modified. I know in Oregon there are lots of people. There was a case recently nearby town of Hillsborough. A garage got in serious trouble with the EPA, like hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines. So it is sad. The Ariya review broke my heart. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I liked the Ariya. Kate didn't like the Ariya. Let's blame Kate.
I mean, it made me very nauseous, and making me and my wife and Michael nauseous. It's not a good record.
Although, like I say, it was a
pre-production.
It's a pre-production.
It's a pre-production.
So we'll see. I do want to touch base on the Ariya really quickly before we go to NACS and other stuff. So, and we'll wait for that motorcycle to go past your house. Wow, that was noisy for where you live.
Yeah, that's not uncommon.
So, There is an Ariya that I do like very much, and it is an Ariya that I got to see last night. That is in the United States. You may have seen it had you gone to Formula E this weekend. Being driven by Chris and Julie Ramsey across the continent. They're driving from the North Pole to the South Pole, pole to pole. They are driving a modified Nissan Ariya all-wheel drive. So it's an e-force, but it's been heavily modified. And it is... and it has 39-inch wheels. And it's not until you stand next to it that you realise...
39's quite big.
It's a bit big. And it makes my F-150 Lightning look ridiculous. So let's cover the reason why they have these big off-road tyres. The reason they have these off-road tyres is they have driven from the North Pole to this. They are driving to the South Pole. They will be driving in Antarctica in an electric car. It will be the first electric vehicle to go from pole to pole. They are currently in the region. I am hoping that we'll get to film with them tomorrow. I'm not going to promise it though, because I don't want to impact their travel and their trip. I did meet up for them last night just for social, just to have a bit of a chat and see how they're doing and catch up. It was too dark to film, unfortunately, or it was too dark to film.
You had a chat with them after they drove to Mongolia and back in a Leaf. So
yes, yeah. So we did that, and 39-inch tires, which is it looks pretty cool. Apparently, the efficiency is nowhere near what it was.
I'm stunned. This is my stun.
That is a stun, and it has been modified for off-roading capabilities, and they need it to be able to do off-road, although they're currently driving on the road. But it looks great. So if you see a very, very, very quite obviously modified Nissan Ariya driving around, currently on the US West Coast, although they've already been across the US to some extent, driving on a British plate with massive tires, give them a wave. They are driving pole to pole. So they're having all sorts of fun. All right, we're going to have a mutiny in our chat room if we don't talk about.
No, I think we should talk about something else. Maybe I'll open this envelope live on it. No.
So NACS, Volvo has signed on to NACS. There's a couple of other people who signed on this week. Obviously, we'll be covering that on 10. I don't want to completely basically talk about all the things we're going to be talking about on 10, because that would kind of spoil the point of it. But
there were questions earlier on about the NACS transition, which I think is now pretty much a transition to NACS.
Well, so we had some very interesting things we learned during the Formula E event, right?
Yeah. I mean,
the hardware that ABB has got access to.
Yeah, that was really interesting. That ABB are getting their cables and their charging connector, the NACS connector, from Tesla's supplier, but they've only been given access to the 200 amp version, which I find, and again, that makes me wonder. It does. I just don't really understand what's going on there, because that's what, 50 kilowatts essentially.
So
if it's a 400 volt car, 200 amps. Yeah.
It's. I suspect that Tesla will give access to the other cables further down the line.
Sure
Let's just put that on the record here so people don't think we're being funny. But at the moment, I think it's just going to be a lower current. But I have an opinion that certainly Ford, and I suspect GM too, is not going to completely dump the current CCS standard. I think for a while we might see double inlets on cars, or we might see people being given a chance to.
Yeah, I just don't know how it's going to look, and they've given themselves a fairly big window.
So 200 amps is 100 kilowatts,
or
just under. So 400. 400 volt, 200 amps. Yeah.
Yeah. The question that we had earlier was retrofitting for NACS to replace the CCS charge port. I don't see manufacturers really offering that.
I think we might see adapters, but I mean, I spoke to a couple of charging networks recently, and they were like, "We don't allow adapters on our network."
I mean, they say that, but how do they know? Like, that's the thing. And there is some really good news from the open source world that someone has built an open source version of the CCS protocol, which is really important because at the moment you have to pay to get access to the documents to build a CCS device, and then you're licensing the technology. It's much more likely that we will see other adapters now that there is an open source version of the protocol. And while that, as far as I know, is the European one, the American version of CCS is pretty similar, so I would suspect that will come on stream fairly quickly.
And we are being corrected. Of course, it is 80 kilowatts, but obviously that's that nominal voltage it's a nominal voltage, the nominal power as opposed to peak.
Yeah, I wasn't far off with my stab at 50. It was a bit rough, but
we're both very tired. We're both very tired, and people are going to complain at us for being terrible people.
But I don't really understand why they've only given access to that, unless that's what they have going spare at the moment. Like, they are rolling out superchargers still at a frantic pace. So
it makes sense that Tesla absolutely gets its V3s and V4s absolutely dialed in before it starts to welcome other people on board. That would be my guess. And also, if you can't get NACS working at 80 kilowatts or 100 kilowatts, you're not going to get it working at 200 or whatever. So that would be my suspicion. I also have a kind of a slight suspicion that, how do I put this? If everybody can access your charging network, you need a USP to sell your cars over your competitors.
Yes. That's true.
Pop it there. I think that's going to be a thing. Oh, we're going to lose so many subscribers on this video. I screwed up the news about John Goodenough. We screwed up our maths.
I mean, I should have pulled out the calculator.
The Scion, yes.
Dare you? Disgusting. Yeah, I mean, I think realistically for most people it's going to be an adapter. I am very reticent to think that charging suppliers will take the time to block every single individual company that's producing a charging adapter. It will just be a terms and conditions. We don't allow adapters on our network. And when
if something bad happens,
you'll be the one left holding the melted piece of plastic. But yeah, I think that's the best we're likely to see. You might see for things like the Bolt, which sold really well, as you might see for the Leaf, an aftermarket CCS adapter, because that is in progress from Dala for the Leaf, and I can see someone for the Bolt going, hey, I can just basically throw an adapter in the car.
My fear of adapters is the risk of loss or stolen, says Jack the Bomb. As a 2017 Bolt EV owner, I'm feeling buyer's remorse knowing that my CCS port is going the way of Chademo. I mean, so the thing that upset me about the transition isn't that everyone was like, okay, we're going to switch to a better standard. mechanically, although the jury is out on whether it's going to be better electronically and whether it's going to be more flexible or not. My concern is that there's going to be a huge number of vehicles that are left out of this. And I know that there are more Teslas on the road than any other car. But really, are we going to have that conversation where we say, just because you didn't buy a Tesla, sucks to be you? Because I know people who, like, I have a friend whose first car was a Spark EV, right? They scrimped and saved to buy that car. There's no way that they could have purchased a Tesla for that money.
No, and so we got the same comment about my wife's Soul when we did the Soul update. You should have bought a Tesla, and I'm like, there weren't any Teslas selling for $9,000, so
it was that how much your Soul was?
Yeah. I mean, it was 10 and change once you put tax and purchasing stuff in, but it was 9 off the dealer lot.
I do think that we're going to see, and it's another good question, is a Tesla Magic Dock build out dead now? I think it probably is.
I don't know that it's entirely dead, because the NEVI funding, if they want any NEVI funding, then it's explicitly called out that it has to have CCS. Now, whether that means that they put one Magic Dock in the darkest corner of the supercharger lot and say,
well, just like Electrify America have done with CHAdeMO.
Yeah, that it's there because it has to be there until they can retire it. I think that's something I would kind of suspect that we'll see, is that they'll put one or two in. We'll keep seeing them cropping up in the NEVI funded sites. But I don't know how interested Tesla are in the NEVI funding, to be honest, especially because it has a lot of caveats about where you can put charging.
And it has requirements about payment and all of this other stuff.
Yeah, which I'm not sure that the supercharger, even the version 4, can meet, because I think I'm not certain, but I have this vague feeling you might have to have on device payment, but it might be that you can just pay by
or a
phone.
Screen or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what the requirements are.
Yeah.
I mean, I just hope that we're not seeing a second standard shift in as many years, or it feels like it. Because, I mean, CHAdeMO kind of was really, CHAdeMO became a not standard thing. 2017, really, when the Bolt came out, that's when it really started to shift. Because up to that point, it was kind of 50-50.
Yeah.
But then, we moved to CCS, and now we're looking at Tesla Magic Dock, which allows you to sort of have that connection between you can rock up at a Tesla supercharger, and it's an extra adapter that's kind of hard connected to the plug.
Yeah, so it's on the end. You plug the Tesla connector into it. So when you put the supercharger connector back in the dock on the supercharger cabinet, it sits in the Magic Dock. And if you want to charge a CCS car and you say, I want to charge a CCS car, when you pull the cable out, the connector comes with it
as well. Yeah.
And that allows you to charge a CCS car. In theory, although as we've seen from Tesla's Magic Dock, not every CCS car works with Tesla's implementation of CCS.
And I don't know what that's going to look like.
I mean, it'll look the same as it has for every other charging station manufacturer. It depends on how interested Tesla are in fixing that problem. And
it's not down to. I'm not sure it's down to Tesla, though. I think it might be down to the automakers in question. But
it's going to be both. But I suspect the automakers are going to be a lot more interested in getting it done rapidly than Tesla is, unless it's one that they have some fancy agreement with.
Right.
Look, they'll be on it for Ford and GM and now Volvo and yeah.
I'm also really curious to see how much spending Tesla's going to be putting into charging networks. Because if this NACS rollout, is going to happen in 2 years' time, we're going to need to see, I would surmise we're going to need to see between 4 and 8x expansion in the supercharger network if Tesla wants to cater to all of those new NACS compatible cars, or we're going to have to see the charging networks that currently exist expand by like 2 or 3x, and Tesla expand by 2 or 3x. I mean, and I'm not sure, the costs associated with that are not small.
Yeah, someone mentioned about the cable length issue, and I know V4 has a longer cable to give you extra cable reach. But I will say, I drove the MG ZS, not this time, but the first time I went back. Well, not the first time, but a couple of years ago when I went back to England. And getting that into a Tesla charging stall was an absolute mare. I had to have my wife guide me in Smithers, because I had to stop about that far from the charging station with the car at an angle diagonally across the space to get enough reach to get the charging connector in.
And I think that's a challenge, isn't it? There's always going to be outliers with that. I'm curious though that Marcus says CCS isn't going away anytime soon. I think this will be interesting to see. I think it will be really interesting.
The question on the import cars is, I don't know because the car effectively speaks CCS. At the end of the day, I mean, the car is still speaking CCS. It's literally the physical plug that's changing. That's all that's changing. And so my hesitancy about a lot of the European companies is they have a lot of investment in Ionity, which is the European version of EA. And obviously Volkswagen in particular, EA is its baby. It might be an unwanted love child, but it's still theirs.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean,
sorry. I'm getting, just saying it like it is.
Child support payments, basically, for Volkswagen.
It is. Yeah, I can see some of the other European companies going, well, sod it, we'll just stick a NACS connector on, because why not? Which is, I think, where Volvo's come from. Volvo has looked at it and gone, well, we're not beholden to anyone.
Well, so I haven't been able to verify this, and I know this is a shock for everybody. There's so much going on that I can't personally keep track of every piece of news. But we have a claim that SAE International has announced it will standardize NACS. And if that is going to happen, that's great news, because it means that everybody will have access to it.
Yeah. Yeah,
which is what we need.
Yeah, that will be a big important development, is that it's actually a standard, because while Tesla put standard in the name, it isn't a standard.
Thank you for that. Thank you, by the way, for putting that piece of news there.
Yeah, we'll have to go look for that. Yeah, it's not a standard. It's what they want to make it at the moment. So if it gets made into a standard, I will feel a lot more comfortable about it.
The other thing that I want to just kind of touch base on here is, as a Ford F-150 Lightning owner, as a Chevrolet Bolt EV owner, both my cars, certainly the truck, has the ability to use plug and charge, right? Now, I have a membership with EA, Electrify America, that gives me access. I pay a membership fee every month, but then I get a discounted rate on per kilowatt charging. Because we do a lot of road trips with the channel, it pays for itself in a day or two when we're doing a long distance trip. There's that motorbike going back the other way. Yeah. So one of the things that we are kind of facing with as Ford customers is that I can use plug and charge. I can rock up at an Electrify America charging station. I can use plug and charge, and I just plug my truck in, and it will automatically authorize the truck, and it will start charging. If I charge my truck that way, I have to pay more than if I use the app. So I've turned off my plug and charge functionality because I'd rather have a cheaper experience. Of course, I suspect that NACS won't have that ability. I suspect it will be you pay what you pay, and there will be a fee on top that's either levied by the operators. I'm very careful here to point out that operators may include people other than Tesla. There'll be like processing fees on the end of the charging, the vehicle manufacturer. So it's a way of the vehicle manufacturers earning some extra money too, I think.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
I mean, imagine if, oh, shoot. Imagine if an accident there. Imagine, if you will, that you turned up at a petrol station and you had to have a membership to the petrol station to fill up there. And you had to have a special RFID tag or some other pre-authorization method to pay. People would revolt overnight. I mean, I know there are special clubs, right? There are fuel cards in Europe. You can have a fuel card and pay per month.
Yeah,
if you have a fleet operator.
One of my local petrol stations is a little independent station. It has a trading post card, and
and like someone said, like Costco, like Costco, you can't fill up at Costco unless you have a Costco membership, right? But I think a lot of people are going to have frustrations about, I can't just turn up and pay.
Well, and I think there's also, and I know I'm going to get another one of my hobby horses here. There's a whole equity piece to this. Like, not everyone has access to credit. Not everyone has access to bank accounts. Mm-hmm. And being able to pay to fill your vehicle and travel at the moment,
in order to get to work,
is something which you can do with cold hard cash of the kind that you can scrape a window with. Mm-hmm. You can't do that now with charging infrastructure, but you can at least theoretically, I think, pay with a debit card. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but I think you probably could. I should try that. I should test that on the app, see whether I can set... Actually, no, all of mine are set up with debit cards. So I should test it with a prepaid debit card and see whether you can.
Yeah, we should do that as part of our thing.
Or swipe a prepay on the machine, because that would be really interesting. Thank you for that idea.
Costco has always required a membership. Yeah, it has. And Jack says, totally none of the charging points I have seen except cash. This is a huge deterrent for someone who would own an EV. Yeah, it really is. And also a lot of people don't want, they don't want to have their data scraped. They don't want to, every time you use a cash card, you leave a digital footprint, which people are not happy with, right? When you give someone cash, you're giving them money as long as it's legitimate money.
Yeah.
That's a very different experience.
To be fair, people do quite often object to being tracked, but they carry one of these bricks around in your pocket.
Yes, that's true.
And this, this has exactly where I've been every day.
Yep.
For the last however many years that I've had an Android phone.
Although, you could have asked Americate to write you the program that she writes for Scent in the Jumper series. Have you read that book?
No, but I can guess what it does.
So my wife, and I don't think I've ever talked about this before, my wife Kate is a fictional character in a book.
She's also a real person.
She's also a real person, but she features in a book in the Jumper universe. I think it would be the third book, the Stephen Gould series. I think it's the third book, where the main character needs a way to automatically turn off location services on their Android phone, and so in the book, she writes them a little code that turns off, and that was based on a real conversation she had with the author. The author was like, "Is this possible?" And she was like, "Yeah." And so, yeah, my wife is immortalized in a Stephen Gould novel, which is the weirdest.
That's very cool.
The weirdest thing.
Yeah.
So I think she's probably got the fame thing above me on that one. Sorry, wrong one. Is someone was asking?
Going for the rich one? Yeah, I'm surprised to see that's still the case in mainland Europe. Right? That's been so. I mean, it's so much better in England since I left. I mean, I don't know if that's coincidental.
That didn't come over very well.
It's so much
been
better.
So much better in England since I'm no longer there.
Yeah. I find it much better to not be there. Yeah,
yes,
I remember you know, when we left, I think I still have the little stack of RFID cards, and we just had a little wallet in the car.
I still have them somewhere around here, in fact.
6 or 7 charging networks, and you'd look before you went somewhere, is that charger a specific network that I have to sign up for ahead of time and have an RFID card? I only ran into one of them last time I was in England.
It is
very annoying.
It's quite the fun thing. It's time for another plug. If you want to support the channel, you can go to patreon.com/transportevolved, and from $1 a month, it would make a big difference to us. I'm going to say we've got some positives at last. So something's been happening with YouTube, and I think I now have the data to back this up, because I've been speaking and watching other YouTubers, who've been saying that, especially in the automotive sector, they've been losing subscribers consistently for the last 3 or 4 months. They've been losing revenue consistently for the last 3 or 4 months. And something changed.
Not from most of them as much as we'd seen. Like they'd seen it, but then I think they have a bit more of a buffer.
Yeah, science people, science communicators as well. There was a couple of science YouTubers who I've been in contact with who've had the same thing that we've had. Just a block in subscriptions and things going down really quickly. And it's just as suddenly as it started, it has turned around.
Mm-hmm.
And it's accelerating upwards. So thank you to those of you who do support us using Patreon. Hello to the new subscribers. I don't know why we had so many unsubscribers, and now suddenly we're back to having subscribers again. We haven't changed anything. So I can only assume that the algorithm has changed. And I've had several people note that the algorithm appears to have changed, and they suddenly are getting people watching again. So yes. I can't complain about that. So but yeah, if you want to support the channel, go to patreon.com/transportevolved. I guess I need to give you all a bit of an update on our idea for the hard drives. We still haven't started the hard drive thing. I know a couple of people have been asking, when can we buy a hard drive? It will probably not happen until August, because Kate is going to be away until the end of the month, right? End of July. She's not going to be at work. And she's just taking some time off at home, but not working, having holiday, staycation.
I don't have to see any people.
Yes, a staycation. And then I am going to be taking a little bit of time off. I'm going to have a staycation, as the rest of the team are, next week. And so it'll probably be August, maybe even September before we started, but we are still planning on doing the hard drive giveaway thing, not giveaway, sell away. So the idea, if you haven't seen, is that we will sell you a hard drive from our server, and we are going to sell the hard drive at the same price
like this one
as the new one, like that one. And it will have that one. What does that one say on it, Kate? It's actually got writing on it.
This one says 5.1 new 320. Sorry, new 320. And it will say which server it's removed from. This one doesn't, because it's just come out of one of Nikki's servers.
That's come out of Baikonur. I can tell you that, because it's 8 terabytes.
And then it's going to go into the array that is down there under my desk, which is going to move and become my backup array, because we are going to have a Thunderbolt array on my machine, which will make things a lot quicker. Because at the moment, my array is a USB 3.1 array.
And
so
I realized I gave you the key for this.
You did.
So I hope I don't need to get into it at any point.
Yeah, you can't.
So this is, did we figure out how big this is?
Is it 24 or 32? I can't remember.
40 something.
Oh, you went up to 40.
40, maybe 40 terabytes. I can't remember.
Oh,
this is I know it's transferring at 1 gigabit per second now. It'll be super fast. It's going to be a RAID 0. But the idea is that you are going to be able to work on your data for Transport Evolved, and then and you will have a backup of all of the footage that we have. Some of it, not all of it, just the stuff that you're working on. Thank you, Willis. That's very kind of you.
Thank you.
I was a long-time Drobo user. Sadly, they went bankrupt, says Jack. Yeah, I know. Drobo went. This one is an OWC Thunderbolt, and OWC are doing really well. RAID is not backup. You're right. It's not RAID 0. It's striped. It's not backup, but there's a backup for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
it's going to be a working drive for Kate, a working scratch drive.
Mine is RAID with parity. I can't remember which RAID level I set. It wasn't a terribly high backup ability. Like, it's not got a lot of redundancy because this array was originally backed up by 2 external hard drives. Unfortunately, they died. So now we are living on the edge.
That was a Weird Al song. Living on the edge. Living on the edge.
This is the only place you get singing, at least from Nikki, because we used to sing, but we don't sing anymore.
Because people got upset and they unsubscribed. It's an odd experience to have a phone screen full of charging apps despite not owning an electric car. I hire one every often from a company in Cambridge, says Counter Tony. Hello, Counter Tony. I think Counter Tony has known me longer than anybody else who watches this channel. Unless my old friend Tink, I think, sometimes watches. I have known Counter Tony since I was 18. Now I feel very, very old. We first met at an Andreas Scholl concert. Living in the fridge. That was
yes, living in the fridge.
Yeah. So Kate has, that's going to be a scratch drive, so she can work on video, because at the moment you can't play back video live in the thing, right?
I mean, it is all using the stand-in footage, the lower res stand-in footage. I can't remember the name for it right now. I'm having a blank. Proxies. Yeah, it's all that I edit all using proxies. And even then, my machine periodically is like, I cannot play this back. No. So,
that's right. Aerosmith sang "Living on the Edge," which is the original, and then Weird Al did it "Living in the Fridge," and I couldn't remember it, and I said Weird Al, and then I was like, oh, I can't remember We're going down a real rat run today. People are going to think we're weird.
I think the boat has not only sailed, it's gone on a very nice cruise, and is possibly docking in a completely different port by now.
Yeah. So anyway, we have Kate's going to get that as a scratch drive, and then she's got a backup server for her stuff, and then every now and then she'll drive the drive down to me, and we'll do a data transfer. Ultimately, we need to put tape drives in here and tape drives in for Kate. We have two servers here. One is a main server, one is a backup server. Absolutely, Anonymous Freak. You know me. Anonymous Freak says he's going to drive up and drop off some stuff for you. Which is good, because I have to drive a drive up to you next week. Reinforcing that British people sing with an American accent. Ha ha. Well, I can't do Sound the Trumpet because Counter Tony is not in the chat room. It's in the chat room and not on screen. But Counter Tony and I have been known to sing Sound the Trumpet together, walking down a street in the middle of London. That happened once. What's this, Kate? Oh yes,
Anonymous Freak is
Silicon Graphics box.
Hard disks, so I can try and get this object working.
Wow, live chat. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, so next week, while the channel is off air, actually, I will reiterate here. So the channel is not going to go off air.
No, we will be on air. There will be videos. There is content, lots of
but
it.
If something breaking happens, we're going to handle it about as terribly as we handled the news about John B. Goodenough and us doing bad math. And that is, do you like how I did that? Math. So not to upset the Brits or the Americans. We are taking a week off making videos. So
you are
currently on the production schedule for next week. How to beat power cuts with your EV, pole to pole in a Nissan Ariya, and the Genesis electrified GV70. Now, at least 2 of those videos require some additional work from team members. So if that does not have that's a bad joke, Anonymous Freak, and I'm not responding.
I thought it was perfect.
That was perfect. So 2 of those videos may not happen, but we have a couple of others to kind of jump into their place and take over if need be. But then Kate is going to be doing 10 next week because I'm taking the week off. Kate's going to step in and do 10. She's going to have to produce that on a Tuesday and a Thursday. So she may not get breaking news stories and she'll say as much. And then the Chicken and Garden I'm filming tomorrow for next week, or possibly today, depending on how we make things happen. And then we have a cool video going out on the 10th about self-driving, in which Kate, you should tell Kate how angry you are at her video. I've got nothing to do with it.
Oh, what my terrible video that's going to get people unsubscribing?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's appalling. Awful.
Please don't list me as producer on that video.
It doesn't. It lists.
Although technically I am the producer of that video. So there we are. No, and then we've got some other cool stuff coming at the end of the month, so that's cool. But yeah, the Ariya video may or may not happen. It depends whether we can film that tomorrow, depending on what's going. We have a Comma AI video coming as well. Although the Comma AI video might actually get moved around because doing 2 semi-autonomous driving videos back to back is probably a bad idea. So I've just realized
probably people will get less than happy about that. At some point, I need to try the actual properly, more or less semi-autonomous alpha version when the next release comes out, and it's 9.3.
So I had a go at alpha.
Pilot. Yeah, I've had a go at it. It's
Alpha is like having a 16-year-old who's just learning to drive behind the wheel.
Yeah,
it's kind of scary.
Wild.
Especially when it comes to stop signs, because it comes up to a stop sign, it stops and goes, I stopped, I go.
Right. Mine didn't even do that. Mine was like, and I'm stopping, and we live in California, so off we go. And I'm like, no. This is wildly exciting, but yeah, I want to try 9.3 before I draw any firm conclusions, because that is ahead of where Sunny Pilot is with that track.
Yeah. And next week I am going to try, and because I'm bringing this back now to what we were doing because we're talking about computers, next week I'm going to try, fingers crossed, to get the big rack mount that we have downstairs in my hallway up into the server closet. And it depends on whether I can take it apart any more than it currently is, because if I can't, it won't fit in the server closet because it won't fit under the door.
And I thankfully am not taking delivery of an Acorn A540, which I thought I was going to for a lot of the time one day.
Yes, I might actually try and get one of my 5300s working, depending on whether I can or not. I'm not very good at soldering, so I'm reticent to do anything with it. The other thing I need to do, I think I've talked about this on air before as well.
And you can send it to me and I'll do it in my copious free time. You'll probably get back about 20 years.
So this is a 2010, this is a 2010 Mac Mini and it has a broken surface mount connector on the motherboard just here for the CD drive. Was my personal web server, and then the hard drive broke. And so I took it apart and then I put it back together again. Linus Tech Tip vibes.
That's us.
Yeah. That I honestly say I cannot hold the candle to Emily. Emily is awesome.
No.
And I wish her all the best. That's all I'm saying on that one.
Yeah.
Emily.
Well, you know, last few minutes, let me. You said I should open this live on air, so I've torn it open quietly. This is very exciting.
What is it?
It's the least exciting thing anyone has ever seen. Oh no, it's taped. It's taped. Can anyone in the chat or on the channel identify this once it's open?
Do I know what it is?
What is it?
That looks like a data cable for a sync cable for your not a Scion.
It is indeed. I have got a serial cable so that I can connect my Scion organizer.
Am I good? Am I good or am I good?
Unfortunately, I couldn't get an Acorn branded one.
So it is a Scion. See, I told you. It's almost like I planned that. I did not know that. I knew you were ordering something along those lines, but I that was hilarious.
But you didn't know, and yet you were spot on.
I was spot on. One of the things I want to do next week also, in addition to getting a minerjourney.com back up online, because it died, and I've got to get the whatchamacallit running again. The Cloudflare tunnel thing is I'm going to get my favorite vegetable online.
Oh, what flavor pie is that one?
It's the potato.
Oh, it's a potato pie. Oh.
It's a potato. I think it is the original potato. It's the 2 gig. It might actually not be the potato because it's a 2 gig version, but it's the Libre computer. But I need to set this up on my 3D printer so that I can get my 3D printer running again. And I know that I can run a 3D printer on this. It's very interesting, some of the ports they've got on this as well. I need to 3D print something, and I need to buy an EMC for it because look, it's got an EMC thing up here somewhere. So I need to buy something to put on that, but I couldn't find any when I bought it, so it was very, very cheap, much cheaper than a Raspberry Pi.
Yes,
and less police involvement. So you know, there's that.
Yeah, that's always that good. Yes, I've been having fun with my old Raspberry Pi. Anyone who has the misfortune to follow me on Mastodon will have seen my rants, which have culminated in me discovering that 5 out of the 5 micro SD cards I bought recently are fakes.
You're joking?
No.
See, this is the reason why I actually, because you've had this conversation. Well, why did you buy this? And I'm like, because I want the originals, because I need them to be originals.
Well, normally, so there's a few different brands that I use that are not, whatever this one is, SanDisk. That are not SanDisk, because we had a couple of SanDisks that weirdly disintegrated, and I was like, well, I'm not getting them anymore. And mainly I use Samsung. But there's one brand which I used to get, which is called Xiaomi, which is like a little off-brand thing, but I never had any problems with it.
I think you have a cunning ploy, because you give me SD cards and invariably they die when they're here, and so I feel guilty and I buy you a good one.
That's not true. So these won't go. These don't go down to you. I get SanDisk for work, and I get Samsung. Is the other one I get for work.
Samsung. Yeah, I have
but yeah, I picked up some Xiaomi ones.
This is one of my favorite 3D printed projects, by the way.
That's very useful.
It's got all my SD cards and all my micro SD cards and then all my USB sticks. It's very, very useful indeed.
But yeah, I didn't want to spend a ton on the single board computer ones. So I was like, well, I'll just get some cheapy ones. That's fine. And all 5 of them are fake. All 5. Unfortunately, I can only find where I bought 4 of them from, and they have promised to send me new ones. And I have been very explicit that these cards failed both on speed and on capacity, and the next ones better work on both speed and capacity.
Yep. No, I've been there. I've been there, and I've got the T-shirt. I also need to do some work on my my Home Assistant, because you've been working on Home Assistant, right? Have you got it running yet?
No, well, that's what the SD cards were for.
Right.
And the irritating thing is, they're all big enough to run Home Assistant on. Like, they're fake, but they still have nearly 30 gig of space. But because everything automatically resizes the drive when it goes in, then it's like, well, that's not going to work because it assumes it's 128 gig drive.
That's not good. This is my thing that I'm working on right now. Is getting the Home Assistant dashboard running on my house. I've got a rain sensor and my sun stuff, but I also want to build some ESP32 temperature sensors and humidity sensors for the greenhouse that should run off 5 volts. And I figure if I can just put a little solar panel somewhere up there that runs off a little battery bank, then I might be able to have a wireless. It's not the ESP32 bit. It's one of the other ones. One of the slightly more capable ones with built-in Wi-Fi. Working on a sensor there. The other thing I want to do is a well sensor, so I can look at my water flow. And there was something else I wanted to do, because we've now got, like I said, automated water sprinkling working in our house. Most of the DIY water relays that you can get are designed for people who have built-in irrigation systems. And in my county, if I wanted to install a water irrigation system underground, I need a permit from the county or from the city. So I've just got hoses rolling across the lawn. And it works. So that we have a timer that comes on for the greenhouse. We've got one that comes on for the vegetable plot, one that comes on for the front garden borders, one that comes on for the potatoes, one that comes on for the other border. And then the fruit trees have a drip irrigation as well. And it saved us a lot of unnecessary watering this year. And it means that I don't leave the water on and then wonder why the water has run out in our well. Because that happens. Oh dear. I ordered a set of 4 smart radiator valves recently, and Toolstation sent me 4 boxes of 4. Alas, they would like them back.
Oh dear.
That's happened to me before. I've ordered one thing and you end up with 20. And yeah, I rang them up once, and it was something to do with an electrical switch once, like a breaker. And I rang them up and was like, you sent me 10 times what I'd purchased. And they were like, yeah, we don't want them back.
Yeah, sometimes they're just like, it's more hassle than it's worth.
You just sent me, instead of sending me 1, you sent me 10. Do you not want them? No. Apparently we need to set up a computer channel, Kate.
Apparently.
In our copious spare time.
I think that might be taken by some other people.
Yeah, I accidentally bought 7 Star Trek t-shirts that way. I'm not going to talk about Star Trek right now, other than watch Strange New Worlds, and I know Kate has not watched it, so do not put any spoilers.
I've watched the first episode now.
You need to watch the second episode.
I'm aware. The
second episode made me cry.
I finished watching The Good Life, and now I'm back onto more modern things.
And if you've not seen The Good Life, you should definitely go watch that as well.
I think it's called Good Neighbors in the States.
Yeah, it's very silly.
It stands up remarkably well. There's only a few egregious episodes of racism, and it's only moderately sexist for the 70s.
Stop talking about Strange New Worlds. Anonymous Freak, you're in for a treat. You really are. We're now getting HP delivered 8 racks of storage and a bunch of boxes and random parts needed. They left behind 3 boxes of 20 hard drives, but couldn't tell me what they were for. I eventually had to scrap them.
Oof.
True Tech. I've been watching non-fiction for the past few years, though Star Trek might be a good distraction. Well, the new Star Trek is very good. I am an old Star Trek fan. I kind of cut my teeth on Next Generation in the 80s when I was a kid. And I've kind of watched ever since. And I have to say, I think the new Star Trek is actually very good. And the latest one is one of the best. The Strange New Worlds, episode 2 of season 2 is... It's a breath of fresh air. Yep. Yep. Exactly. All right, guys, it has been great. Thanks for watching. You can follow us on Mastodon, and the best way of doing that is by going to Mastodon, getting a client on Mastodon. If you don't have a Mastodon account, go get Mastodon. It's really easy. The best place to go to... Sorry?
Pick your server wisely.
Yeah, if you go to... I can't remember. It's called Get Mastodon, isn't it? I think that's the name of the website. I'm just looking now. We both use joinmastodon.org.
Yes, join Mastodon.
So go to joinmastodon.org. That is the Mastodon. Get the app, create an account. Now, bear in mind that joinmastodon.org tries to push you towards a certain set of servers.
Which
I have issues
some
with.
of the big ones, which I'm not sure that's the best experience.
And then Mastodon, unless you are a Nazi. By the way, thank you to all of you who gave us love last week. We actually had actual Nazis.
Yeah, really very virulently unpleasant stuff from people
I actually
who are very sad.
I couldn't sleep for a whole day. Like, I had a sleepless night on Thursday last week. I don't know if you noticed, but when I filmed 10 last week, I was operating on no sleep for 2 days. And that was hard. Choose a server with a 1,000 character limit, or roll your own server, run it on your rack somewhere at home. You can run it on one of these. You could run your own Mastodon server. The problem is you then have to join a Fedi block, which we had not done. Or you had to get subscribed to a Fedi block list. But anyway, there are some nasty Mastodon servers out there. But if you join Mastodon, Kate...
Yes, if you go look at Join Mastodon, and I would suggest you go to the left and pick a topic that you vaguely are interested in. And it doesn't have to be that's all you talk about, but that's probably going to be the main focus of the people on that server. But like email, you get stuff from everyone. It doesn't matter what server they're on, unless they're Nazis, in which case, hopefully you're on a server that blocks them and puts them in a little hole in the ground where they can stay.
Which is what we've now done to the ones that were sending me obscene things last week that caused me to have a sleepless night and, frankly, not want to carry on anything. They really got to me. And by the way, I apologize for the last live stream that we did where I was just angry. We're all human. Yeah. So go and join up and then follow us. mastodon.transportevolved.com/show. That is how we do it.
Yes.
To run the Mastodon server, you need a fix.
You need a fixed IP. Yeah, you do need either a fixed IP address, or you need a dynamic DNS that redirects, or you need to do
you use Cloudflare.
Although we don't really like Cloudflare.
Well, we still use Cloudflare.
Yeah, but we don't really
at the moment. But you can use Cloudflare, which is a service that they adopted, and it allows you to do reverse proxy stuff.
Which, if I decide to start serving the website out on my RISC PC, or even better, my Acorn A4 via Ethernet, then I'll need that.
And you'll need FrogFind if you don't already know about FrogFind.
I do know about FrogFind.
FrogFind is awesome, and go and support the amazing Sean from Action Retro who made FrogFind possible. Don't apologize. I live in the Pacific Northwest and I'm getting harassed more than ever now. Yeah, just stay together. And Cloudflare is dynamic DDNS. Yeah, it is. It does it slightly differently though. So instead of DDNS, where it points you at dynamic DNS, it allows your computer to live on a network that has a rotating IP address, and it always updates it when it changes so that the server request always comes into your machine. With Cloudflare, it's a reverse proxy. So there's your computer on your network inside your firewall makes a connection out to the internet to the Cloudflare server and goes, "Hi, I'm here just in case you need me." And if someone ever needs to go to your server, Cloudflare goes, "Hello, can we help you?" And it acts a bit like a bouncer on the door of a nightclub. It won't let you in. It just passes messages on. It's just nicer that way. Anyway, we will have to become most secure. Yeah. Security is always good. Oh, and by the way, if you are watching in the state of Oregon, and there was another state and I cannot remember what it was. Can you remember the other state that was involved, Kate? There was a massive
the driving license thing.
I can't DMV stuff. No, if you are watching this and you are in the US, honestly, if you haven't locked your credit report yet, it's about high time you did. If you're watching in Europe, you can do the same thing over there with your relevant credit agencies. You should not have an unlocked credit report. Life hack lessons from Nikki. You should not have a unlocked credit report. You can contact credit reference agencies and ask them to lock your report. And basically for free. You do not have to pay for it. They might try and make you do it, but you should be able to do it for free and just go, "Hey, can you please lock my account?" And what it does is you have to prove that you are the person connected with the account, but say, "Hey, I would like you to lock it." And what that means is if someone gets hold of your social security or national insurance or whatever it's called in your country, and they pretend to be you to get a loan, buy a car, buy a house, whatever, it doesn't get connected with your account. Oregon and Louisiana, apparently. Thank you. Hellscape Navigator.
I like that. That's very good.
If you go and you want to lock your credit account, you can. And then if you are going to apply for a credit card, you're going to apply for something that requires a line of credit, and they need to check your credit score. You can unlock your credit report temporarily while they go through the process of verifying you are who you say you are, and you have, your credit report is your red credit report, and then you lock it again. It's a bit like making sure that you keep your door locked at home so no one can just let themselves in and sit on your couch eating your digestive biscuits and drinking your tea.
Appalling.
I had a digestive biscuit today. I had a digestive. I was on the phone to my mum and I was like, "Look at this." And my mum's like, "It's a biscuit." And I'm like, "Yeah, they're not sold over here very often."
No. Although I believe Fred Meyer stocks them.
Yes, they do.
Supermarkets are available.
Yes, they do. Yeah, we've actually switched to a different supermarket because Fred Meyer's going to be expensive.
Go there. We just do ours at the local co-op because
we try and go to local stores wherever possible, and our chickens get the most local food. Anyway, thanks.
So that's a very, very thorough run through of everything that's been going on in the world of EVs.
we just went we just went downhill after that, didn't we? Hobnobs are better. They are.
Chocolate hobnobs, milk chocolate hobnobs.
They have to be hobnobs, chocolate hobnobs.
Dunked in tea. Oh, so the chocolate goes melty. Hey, hobnobs, if you want to sponsor us.
And when it comes to food, I'm just going to say, when it comes to shopping in general, I think the general advice that I have for people these days is try not to support big corporations.
Yeah.
There are a few that are decent, but for the most part, the larger a corporation, the more shitty it is towards people, unless you have proof that, you know, they allow collective bargaining. They have good, you know, good stuff. I was talking to someone yesterday or the day before, I can't remember, and we were talking about Transport Evolved and how we worked at Transport Evolved, and they genuinely thought that everybody who worked at the channel was a freelancer. And I'm like, no, that's not how I roll.
No.
They are official salaried members of staff with benefits. That's how we do it. That's why we need your support at patreon.com/Transport Evolved. I did not plan that, but it was too good not to, you know.
Yeah.
But that's why we do what we do. And look, I've got 2 messages on at the same time.
Oh, you're just showing off, man.
I'm just showing off. All right. I would love to show you the ending of that video again, but I don't have a version that it will play unless I'm very, very clever and actually change this to MP4, in which case it might do. I don't know. Sometimes it does it and sometimes it doesn't. If you haven't seen the wonderful Michael's video on that has just been done on the Genesis electrified GV70, is that what it's called? I think so. Yeah, it's uploading now. So we're just going to wait and carry on talking until it's done, and then I will say goodbye, and everyone can see the beauty that is Michael's handiwork. I think that's going to be a really good one.
Yeah, it is. Michael is such a good editor.
Michael is the best, and I know Michael's watching right now, and Michael rocks.
Good. Michael absolutely rocks.
As does Erin. Erin has been pushing some amazing stuff out lately.
I asked her like yesterday. Look, hang on. So this is what I drew for Erin yesterday. I was like, "Can you make that into an animation?" And she went, "Sure."
Yeah.
And it is awesome, and it is perfect, and it shows exactly what I want it to show.
It is. And I also want to say that my dogs rock, because they've both been asleep and underneath my, well, one over there by the door and one here under my desk, and they're both being amazing, considering that Ghost's ball is now a subterranean ball. I've got visions of baby gophers just playing with this ball down in their burrow, unless it's rolled in like Indiana Jones style, and that worries me now. What if it was like the giant Toblerone rolled in?
They're running down the burrow.
One of them grabs their hat.
Yeah.
That's pretty disturbing, Kate. I mean, that's what have we done? Anyway, but yeah, dogs offer passive heating, security, and reasons to get exercise. They really do. I love my 3. I know that having pets is not necessarily always the best from an environmental point of view, but I figure I'm allowed a few credits because that would just, you know, I try and have a low carbon lifestyle most of the time. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching, and guess what we're going to do now? We're going to say goodbye, and you get to watch the lovely GV70 montage. Keep evolving.
Keep evolving.